What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we are on the 65 Lincoln. It's been a while since you've seen this car, but this week we have a whole bunch of fabrication work on our front and rear bumpers that we're gonna show you. Before we get to any of the sheet metal work, we have a big box of parts inside the Lincoln. Way over there that says Wilwood on it. So it is brake time for us. And that's not taking a brake, that's putting on some brakes. So we're gonna obviously upgrade all of this stuff to nice Wilwood brake system. But before we get that on, we're gonna do something about these upper control arms. They're old, they're crusty, and we got shiny new fancy tubular control arms. Another good reason, besides that these are old and crusty and these are new and shiny and fancy, is that we are running a low ride height, and that means this goes up and then creates negative camber that we don't want. So having an adjustable upper control arm with more adjustment for camber in a more slammed position will get the exact amount of camber we want, instead of just being forced by this to get a whole bunch of negative camber that we don't want. So let's go ahead, pull off the caliper, rotor. I think the sway bar link has to come off too in order to get to this ball joint here, and then we could zip out the rest of the control arm and throw in the new one. Now we got the new upper control arm mounted. We can go over and start putting together our Wilwood brake system. 4 piston calipers here. We got heavy duty brake pads, our 2-piece rotor assembly, and our caliper mounting brackets. All of our associated hardware. So we're going to start by putting these mounting brackets onto our hubs, getting them situated with a couple initial spacers, and then we are going to assemble our 2-piece rotor together so we could put it on there. Alright, now that we're finished with our front brake assembly, we're going to move on to the rear. Some of these components have to go in with the axle out. The bracketry goes first, and the axle slips over it. So I've already pulled out this axle right here, and we are going to start setting this up.
Alright, now that Dave's got those brakes installed on the car, it's a great time to talk about this week's sponsor, Restomod AC. They've come out with a brand new apparel line called the Greasy Hand Society. Not only do they have some awesome apparel, but they got really great gifts to put underneath your Christmas tree this year. I got a flannel!
Oh, I got socks.
I got a t-shirt.
I got shop rags.
Ooh, I got a hat.
You want to trade?
No, I'm good. Whether you got a hat, some socks, a t-shirt, or an awesome flannel, or even some shop rags, I guarantee your loved ones are going to be happy this year. So go over to Greasy Hand Society, pick up all your Christmas gifts. Now let's get back to work, boys.
got our bumper mounted up here. It's looking pretty good, nice and tucked in there, nice and tight, and also very sturdy, which is very cool. So you can see the bracket, how it operates here. We got factory bolts in the back here, there, and then our new bolts here, tying it into the factory bracket that goes onto the actual inside of the bumper. And you can see the hardware poking through. Okay, now that we have our tucked bumper, we're gonna move on to our grille. We're gonna get rid of these headlights and we're gonna try and graft some modern headlights into the grille. We're gonna put OBS headlights into this grille. Kind of the same way we did the dash, keep these lateral lines, the old school look, and kind of made it with something new and fresh. So if we look back here, this grille is actually 3 separate parts that are bolted together, and obviously all these headlight bezels are bolted in. So first part we're going to do is we're going to strip this down and also make sure we got the right clearances, because we have tucked this bumper up quite a bit. It makes the space where this grille fits pretty small, so we might have to do some minor tweaks. All right, we got our grille sort of mocked up here. These 2 side pieces fit really nicely. Our centerpiece, need to take out a little bit of material to get it squeezed in there. I have 2 bolts slid in over here and here, so the bottoms line up pretty well. This sort of hangs over the bumper. And then there's the top part, which does have a gap right here to come in and sit flush, but on the back side, it is hitting right over here and right over here on just some of the internal framing. So if I just notch that out a little bit, this top piece will be able to bend forward. I'll be able to line up to my side grills, and we can see how it actually looks. Okay, we clearanced the inside of our center fender piece to fit our center grille piece, and then we've now put new hardware and have tightened in our 4 points of connection, tying our centers to our sides. I think it looks pretty darn cool. It is super flush. As you can see right here, it's pretty much touching the bumper on this end. So we're moving on now to the back.
So Dave spent some time working on our bumper here on the Continental, tucking in the ends, making everything fit real nice. And then our customer decided to show us this rendering, more of a concept. He liked the look of eliminating the side marker lights and kind of making the whole front side of this front fender area just kind of look streamlined like that. So eliminating the side piece of the bumper, which is sitting over here now. So we're gonna attempt to remove this and fill in this whole section and kind of give it a more futuristic look here. So first step is gonna get all this, the trim, the side marker lights off, and then we're gonna have to modify the bumper again. This one doesn't even have a bumper, but again, I'm not trying to steal whoever's idea this was. We're just trying to kind of steal a couple ideas off it, so.
Okay, we got our marker light assembly removed. This trim is also loose, put it on the back just to give us a guideline, because I think we're gonna keep it and it'll get wrapped in with everything else. So right now, we're gonna try and fill in this section with sheet metal, right? Matching this line up here, kind of coming down, swoop around to here. And then we'll, come to a crest, just like the trim, and then come back in and dive right before the grill. So you can see diving that way, this bumper is gonna be in the way. So eventually we're gonna have to chop the end of this bumper off. But for now, for design purposes, I think it's best if we just remove it. So let's pull the bumper first, and then we'll start to make a template out of this section right here. Okay, we got our template all made up for this side. Looks pretty good. Comes out, meets up with the edge of our trim here. We're gonna go ahead and make this piece first, and probably actually tack it in a couple places, try and get the shape. We got a curve going this way and curve going that way, so we'll have to see how that'll work. Once it's all tacked in, then we could create our secondary piece that's gonna dive in here and come and mate our edge down here. I'm gonna add 1 inch to the bottom, so that way we could sort of roll break the bottom to sort of match the fender roll. And then once this secondary piece is tacked in, we'll be able to template out a fill piece, transition down here and fill this gap. Okay, we got our piece all bent and shaved. It looks to fit pretty good here. So what I'm gonna do is clean up the edges of this black paint, and that way we'll have a few spots to tack. As we tack, we can kind of form. You can see the piece is already pretty curved. So yeah, let's clean up the edge here, get some tacks in, and then as we're tacking, we can really suck it in to be flush with our original. But I think it's gonna look pretty good. So we got our front side welded right here. Kind of comes to a soft point, kind of similar to how the trim piece comes to a soft point too. Trying to make that continuous line go down here. So far it looks pretty good. You don't need like a little bit more DAing to blend it and get extra flat, but I just have it tacked in right now. I don't want to actually weld it all in. What I'm first going to do is cut the same pieces on the plasma that I did for this side, for the opposite side, and get those bent and all in position. That way I can try and get each side looking as even as possible before I fully send this one in. So now we got our front closeout pieces all welded in, looking pretty even for now. The next step is to get our bumper back on, so we could use that as our structure, and we might do some sheet metal over it, making a flatter surface, kind of make all smoothen out the whole front end. But first, we have to cut down the edges of our bumper because, of course, they were sticking out through this area all the way out to here. So I took a measurement from right in there to to the other side, marked my bumper, and now I'm gonna cut the edges off. Okay, we got our bumper remounted here, and it's nice right here. We're tucked flush up under our grill. We got our gap on our sides from our cut, and now we can start working on filling this in. We use the bumper as the structure, and then we're going to sheet metal over it to try and smooth out some angles, trying to match the design of the sides here. So I'm going to finish tightening all these carriage bolts in, and then once they're fully tightened, I could weld around them, because we are going to be sheet metaling over, so we won't be able to get to these after we make those modifications. But we want it in the positions where these mate with the holes, since everything is a little bit slotted. Once we weld them, then they'll act like studs, and we can just slip the bumper on and off. So let's tighten these up, get them all welded on, and then we can make a template. So we're gonna come all the way across up to this point with one piece, make a symmetrical piece on the other side, weld the seam in, kind of keep this sort of crown, and our crown right here. All right, we got our first piece all bent up and tacked on. And now I'm gonna make a template from here all the way over to the other side, cut that out on the plasma, and then get that tacked in the same way. Everything is starting to come together. I made these little side pieces, filling the gap between our closeout wings over here and the bumper. And then I'm just about getting this little fill piece in here. So this will fill between the grill and the bumper, right like that, and dive under there to make a transition. So it's all looking pretty good so far. Obviously, we got a lot of welding to do, and you can see in the center here, these are two bumper pieces. In the center I made a little piece that has a bend in the center, a little crown to sort of match the crown here and the crown right here. Continue that theme all the way down. So a little tricky, some small spaces to get everything lined up, but overall it's coming out pretty good so far. So we're just gonna move along. This piece is now ready to be tacked. Got some magnets holding the edges, and then I could go through and hold the seams nice and tight because I put some tacks onto it. So let's do that, and we gotta make that other side similar to this side. Now that we got the front all mocked up, tacked in, we're gonna move back onto the rear. And originally we had tucked up this bumper and these side fin pieces, but we're gonna go the extra step, and the customer actually wants these rear lights eliminated, and replacement there's gonna be an LED strip light that will have all the reverse light and brake and tail light functions embedded into it. So similar to the front, we're going to be removing the tail light, the fin closeout assembly. We're going to keep the bumper, but we're going to be closing out on either side of the license plate just to make it one continuous piece. Okay, we got our first piece all tacked in right here. It's looking pretty good so far. So now what we're gonna do is come in with some template paper on the inside and be able to hold it up to this position. And first, I guess we'll get a contour over here, be able to get a piece that fits nice, and then we could hold it up and get our line from the outside to match the contour up here. So yeah, let's start putting it up, and then we'll start making this shape right here. We have our tail pieces tacked in on either side. I need to make some adjustments, so I ended up drilling a hole so I can get a piece in there, but it's okay because I'll just weld this back in at the end. Here's the other side, and step back and look. They are even, which I would hope they should be because I use the same exact drawing in the plasma to cut for each side. So took a little finagling, but they're looking pretty good in the rough state. So now that they're like this, I'll know exactly distances from the bumper here. So what I'm gonna do is mount the bumper back in and then be able to plan out, same as the front one. So we're gonna sheet metal from this fin all the way over. We're gonna cover that up and go out to our edge. Okay, so we got this piece just tacked in a little bit. You can see I broke it at the bottom, and that gives us a nice cover for this bottom part that was sticking below our bumper line right here. See, it goes right over. So now that this is in, we have this little gap to contend with right here. So I'm gonna get some template paper, make a piece, and we're gonna figure out how to do this little curve down, back, curve again. Let's get some paper and make it up. Okay, so our second connection piece is now tacked in. You can see the one on the left-hand side there. And that kind of ties our bumper to our side pieces, fills in our gaps. And this is pretty much where we're gonna get to this week. What we're gonna be doing here, we took off these trim pieces. We're gonna need to box in a little section to have a license plate, but this will be one smooth area. And obviously we also have to do a bunch of final welding and blending to fill all these spaces that we tacked. You also saw us do the front side here. We mocked up the bumper, tucked it in, tucked the grill in, and then closed out these side panels, eliminating the markers. And with that, in the next episode, you're gonna see us figure out all the lighting, front, rear, turn signals, everything for this build. That is it for this week. See you on the next one.